Okay, so we are back for some power rankings. Specifically, we are looking at Faceit Expert Division. We are in the middle of the season at this point, and I will do a quick standings show off just so that people can see. Oh, let's go ahead and move that around. That'll make it a little bit easier to handle things there. But we are at the middle of the season, and I will do a quick standing show off just so that people see where things sit officially, and then we will go into the power rankings and we will defend them, get yelled at about how wrong we are, get told how perfect they're, all the good stuff that usually happens with these. Nothing too crazy. So we can see at the top of the standings, Shroom Squad and Yum Yum Yum. Yum 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 was previously C-Paid. And then we've got some of the other teams that we would have expected to see up here. We move on through. We are at the point where we do have quite a lot of forfeiting teams. This is just a quick show of the standings. But as we move over to our power rankings, we are going to see that all of these teams look like they have moved over to forfeitings. And those are the ones that, you know, weren't for sure forfeiting out the first time. Some of the ones that were for sure forfeiting out, like Overwatch, ZGM, those weren't even on the first thing, and now we've added more. So we had three, four, five, six, seven, what 9 teams that are forfeiting out of Expert Division. But that's not too wild, unfortunately, when it's not backed by like a college or some institution that has some, hey, you owned up to this, or hey, you paid a lot, not a lot, but like more money than what Faceit Pass costs for this. You find players getting a little more, no, I'm going to protect my ego, I'm going to leave, I'm not going to be associated with a team that didn't win it all, wasn't great, etc. So unfortunate, there's not too much Faceit can do about the fact that more teams are going to drop out as time goes on here. But for now, we are going to go ahead and get into this. So we do have our top tier teams here. Let's go ahead and look at what specifically that is. So for our top tier teams, we of course have Shroom Squad. Shroom Squad has done everything and more to deserve that spot. Anyone serious should be considering them the sort of likely champion at this point. If you're not looking at that and sort of going, oh yeah, they're probably the one who is most likely to win based on results, you are foolish. And you might go, wait, there's another 7-0 team. Why is it them over C-Paid or Yum 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 here, who I have not changed the icon of? There's very good reason for that. If we actually look at the matchups that have happened, what everyone has done, Shroom Squad has wins over Midori, Heatwave, Northeastern, so, calling out those teams. Here's Northeastern, here's Midori, here's Heatwave. Those are good wins. And then they have also beat Avidity, I want to say the last 2 times in We Are So Bat Cups this last weekend and then a previous weekend. The rosters are always a little bit, finicky. Oh, maybe this player is here who isn't, etc. Whatever the case may be there. But Shroom Squad has somewhat dominantly put themselves in that spot. It's also somewhat dominant because in the past it would have been considered, in the previous power ranking, I know a lot of people came out and said, hey, Temporal, you're wrong. The only 3 teams that can win it are these 3 teams. And that definitely hasn't held up. Or if any part of it is held up, the only team that's held up would be Shroom Squad. We have seen Avidity has taken losses to Yum 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 or C-Paid, who previously would have been over here. So Avidity lost to these guys. And we saw the Wonder Guard or Tug Your Sucker or Baz Team or whatever you want to call it there, they went ahead and picked up some losses too. They lost to, excuse me, Heatwave and Daybreak there. And that's 2 losses. And you might be going, okay, if they lost to both of these teams, why aren't they in the lower tier? Why are you being so biased? Why are you being so sticky with their rankings? I did move both of these teams up. Both of these teams were previously in the bottom tier here, but we have seen that WonderGuard has been running with some different players. These losses happened very close to each other from a timing standpoint. And we do know WonderGuard was also running Uber Eats as their Lucio. They were running a different DPS than usual. It looks like the roster was perhaps a little bit compromised. Is it going to continue to be compromised? I don't know. If they took another loss, could they absolutely collapse on their rankings? Absolutely. These guys are fragile in their place in this tier at all at this point. But given how, high people were on them, given that, this is the successor of Dylan's Duck, which was a top 12 OWCS team, all those things, they're getting a little bit, but this is ready for the bottom to fall out. Day by day, not daybreak. Did I point at the wrong one? Yes, thank you. You are correct. It was to WonderGuard 1 lost to Daybreak. They have a win over Day by Day. Thank you. And that's part of why they're not totally collapsing. They do have a win in that brawl matchup over Day by Day there, but they have a loss to Daybreak and to Heatwave here. So that matters and very quickly could spell the end of, hey, why is WonderGuard so hard in the first place? That said, does WonderGuard have anything to sort of support them staying up here? Yeah, they do. They have that win over Day by Day as well as a win over ASU. So, this is a little bit messy, but things are going to start getting messy on these power rankings. Okay. So that's what we're looking at there. We've sort of covered the top 4 teams, or the first 4 teams in this list by doing so. Avidity, BDSU, Northeastern, and Alt Spartans lost to Yum/CPaid there. In weekend tournaments has lost to Shroom Squad. CPaid/Yum, that's this team with the 5 flags here. Now they're Yum. They have the win over Avidity. They have a win over Daybreak there. So those are both good wins for them. And then they have a win, and then they have a win over Crucible, who's going to be down there, and one of these Iliad teams, Odysseus, which I'd have to look up which color they are. So they've got some things that have locked them in there nicely. The win over Avidity is certainly good. The win over Daybreak, who then beats WonderGuard, solid. That's why they're here. Are they in that tier where they can really take down Shroom Squad? We'll have to see. They currently get the number 2 spot for a reason. Just to round out the rest of the top tier here, and it would, we look at this. There's certainly a world where you could say the top tier maybe should be down to just these 2 teams, but I think we would sort of then run into a place of maybe we should just have a tier for just this team. But hey, we'll see how things go. Regardless, we move on. The last 2 teams in this, just because we haven't explored them as thoroughly. ASU does have a win over Heatwave, as well as a win over Alt Spartans there. And their losses, what's holding them back, would be the loss to Sucker, which would be Took Your Sucker. So they've got a loss to there. Maybe I'll just use a different direction. Well, no, that'll work. And then they've also got their loss to what was I looking at there? And then they've also got a loss to Avidity, so that's not too wild. We see they've got a win over Heatwave here. They've got losses to 2 teams that we've got ahead of them. They're part of what's stopping Took Your Sucker's collapse there. Northeastern, we could do a very similar thing. They have a win over Day by Day. They are also going to have a win over... We take a quick look there. They've got the win over Day by Day, and then their losses are going to be to Shroom Squad and Avidity. So pretty similar things that we're looking at there. But then we move on through here down into our playoff hopeful tier. Now this tier maybe makes a little more sense. I still would like us to get actual playoff rules unless someone saw those get announced today. They were supposed to be announced on Monday. I haven't seen them yet. Maybe we got them. Allegedly Took Your Sucker / Baz's team disbanded. I wouldn't be shocked by that. I thought that was very likely a possibility because I didn't think those personalities would stand for losses to teams that they wouldn't have paid that kind of respect to, I'll just say. So that wouldn't surprise me, but I'm waiting to see it, sort of thing. Like until I actually see them forfeit out 2 games in a row, or until I see that roster go down to not enough people to field the team, I'm not pulling them. That's the first time that's the first time hearing of this news, but it was something that I thought might happen. Not disband, I'm just leaving for a month and a week and no sub. Not disband, you're just leaving for a month in a week and no sub. So you're leaving for a week there, Baz. Okay, so are you playing through and then just sort of going, hey, we're getting our playtime and then we're out? Or are you saying, hey, it's not worth it, so we're done? Or are you trying to find a replacement? Fill us in since you're here. Probably, but your hearts will not be in it. Got it. Got it. Okay. Okay. In a week you're leaving for a month. Okay, well, I wish you the best. That's unfortunately what happens on these longer tournaments. I'm pretty sure every team, not every team, but most teams have had to deal with some version of that. Baz's team is losing Baz for a month. We know Voyager lost Shocker for at least the first few weeks of play there. I know Northeastern has had to juggle around not having our hit scan for 2 weeks, something like that, and we'll have another juggle deeper in the season as well, which is why I would be perfectly happy to move us a tier, but based on results, I wouldn't necessarily move us down a tier, but I suspect based on our roster juggling, we should be somewhere down in this tier. And everyone's had, not everyone, but a lot of teams are going to have something like that when you're playing for 2.5 months in a season there. Team will be off-rolling trying to salvage. That's what you have to do. That's what you have to do. You guys maybe have the ability to add a player, remove a player, whatever, and make it work. We're, of course, a university team, so we really can only use what's in our system at our school, etc., which makes it a little hard to replace at level. But I'm sorry to hear that, Bass. Regardless, we are moving down to our playoff hopeful tier. And this is where things get a little bit interesting because these top 2 teams here in my playoff hopeful tier, their defensive that is, hey, they beat Baz team, they beat Wonder Guard, they beat Took Your Sucker, and I always wondered a little bit, okay, how much was there a pre-collapse happening there? Were those wins real? Was the first one real and not the second one? And that's not to take anything. That's not to take too much away from these teams. I think these teams probably belong in this tier or very close to it. It just becomes a question of how much are those wins really worth. Was this team being a little trolly? And, maybe we'll get that because we have a rep from the team here, but teams frequently say that, oh, we weren't playing our best, etc. So always take that with a grain of salt. But the problem is when you look at Daybreak's next best win behind Wonder Guard, it's Goose Gang. Like, the next best win for Daybreak behind this is going to be all the way down here. So, like, the support for this positioning collapses if the Wonder Guard win isn't real. Now, I think the Wonder Guard win is real enough that they're not falling this far to a position, but that's what you're looking at, and that's what makes these tier lists hard, challenging, etc. And then we look into a pretty similar type thing for Heatwave, where their best win is going to be over Wonder Guard, and then their next best win is over Rockets down here. So that's how these things collapse. Now, this is a little bit different because I do know that over the weekend I saw in the most recent match Heatwave beat Day by Day, but I believe these two traded matches were in the qualifier, the Day by Day one, and in the Sunday tournament playoffs, whatever, Inferno won here. So that, or Heatwave, excuse me, won here. So you do have that. I think these two establish each other in this tier reasonably well. And some of you might be going, okay, maybe, but like, why are these two in this tier in the first place? Not this, not Heatwave, because Heatwave, of course, beat Wonder Guard. But why are these guys up here? Last time they were down here, and they did just pick up a win over Voyager. And was Voyager missing a player or having this? Totally possible, maybe, whatever, but we have to look at results as best we can to some degree. Cool. We signed up knowing we'd have roster availability issues, so it is what it is. That's exactly the stance we took, Bass. That is exactly the stance that we took. We said, we're going to sign up, even though we're going to have roster issues, and we know ahead of time we're going to have roster issues, specifically because the times that we wanted to scrim were basically, Mondays and Wednesdays, 8 to 10. And wait a second, those are no longer valid scrim blocks if this league is running. So I guess we just have to sign up for this league to get our playtime. Because those are sort of the scrim blocks we most want. We have some other scrims, but you get the idea. That's just how it is. Okay. I'd like to know what playoff cutoff is, so we know the cutoff. Agreed, very much so. Okay, what are we looking at? I am missing Aardvark. Aardvark didn't have a logo last time that I did this, and I didn't add logos this time. I think I'm missing them, and I'm missing Maucha, the other team in this brand, as well. I know where they go. I'll tell you where they go as we get to them, but that's what we're looking at. So we covered the first half of Playoff Hopeful, second half of Playoff Hopeful. Nothing too crazy here. Day by Day did beat Voyager most recently. Voyager has beaten Tanuki previously. Tanuki has beaten Midori previously. So these are pretty well supported. Even these, I would say, are pretty well supported. This becomes a little bit of a question mark. But then we move on to Midori, and Midori is another one of those things where they're sort of sitting up here based on last season's results still, based on roster still, whatever you want to call it. Their best wins are over Rockets and Aardvark is in this same respectable tier here. So that's not doing a ton for them, and it's not like Aardvark is at the top of it. If you specifically wanted to know where Aardvark was, it would be right about here is where I've got Aardvark between these two. These three teams traded, where you had a three-way triangle between Grass, Aardvark, and Ball State, which is Red Randy's, going on there. So bottom end of respectable. So this is a little bit unsupported. This could be a little bit of a vulnerable spot where Midori hasn't yet proven a good win to stay here. Now, they haven't been taking bad losses either, but they haven't yet proved a good win to stay here. Their worst losses, of course, to, Tanuki, and that's right where we've put them. Then we get more into the more core meat and potatoes of the league here, and I'll move through these a little bit faster, but as we get through here, we should do a ranking by logos. I can see it. Hey, Muck, how are you doing it? Where's Ohio University? Not collegiate this time. I say not collegiate as we've got a college there, we've got a college there, we've got a college there, we've got a college there. Almost collegiate. You have a couple St. Clair players over there. You've got, certainly I've seen players. I've seen some of these players in collegiate. I've seen some of these players in collegiate. I've seen, we could go through here and we would find like a third of the players are in collegiate, maybe more. But hey. Okay. So then we were in our respectable tier here. Alt Spartans did get the win over Nightmare Rotation. Good on them. That happened earlier this week on Monday, I believe. Their next best win is over Boop Troop, and Boop Troop used to be down here in dodging relegation, but have climbed a bit, so that will work out nicely. Nightmare Rotation, their best win is going to be over Red Randy's, so that's not doing a ton in terms of holding them up here. This is, again, a case of, hey, they made playoffs last time. In fact, they were one of the teams that got a promotion opportunity last time. I know the roster has shifted a little bit since then, but this is where they're sitting for now, much like Midori sitting a little bit on legacy power, kind of like Daybreak 2 sitting a little bit on legacy power, except Daybreak has the win, the one win to make that a little more than legacy power. But I don't mind a little bit of legacy power until proven otherwise. Hive Mind Kittens, I know people were getting on me like, oh, you've way underrated them, they're way better than that, etc. And I like that because these were one of the these were one of the top two teams out of Open Division in Season 1, so you want them to be reasonably respectable, and they're a little, they're at the top end of respectable here. Why are they at the top end of respectable? Well, if we look at what they've done, they beat Artemis, so they beat this team right here, and then they also have wins over Ocelate. Cool, we like to see that. in terms of more. And then Alt F4. Alt F4 isn't really useful. Alternate F4 doesn't have any actual wins yet. So what's, really holding them up? Oh, that arrow should have been from there. What's really holding them up is their win over specifically Artemis here, but good enough. As long as Artemis is real. And is Artemis real? I don't know. Let's find out. So when we look at Artemis and why are they here? Well, they have a win over Crucible, which I hope I've voted at the right team here. They have a win over Effortless. Okay, this is maybe feeling a little bit better with that win over. Oh no, they don't have it over. No, they do. They have it over. Sorry, these are hard. Artemis, Crucible, Rockets, and Nova. My bad. Crucible, Rockets, and Reckless Nova. Yeah, that'll work. That'll work for this placement. Some of them, I would not at all be surprised if this team was yelling in chat or yelling in comments or threw a fit on Twitter. And the reason I wouldn't be shocked if this team threw a fit on Twitter is because if you look at how Artemis has done, you can see that they are 6-1. So that looks like, hey, this should be a great team. We're, halfway through the season sort of thing. So this should be a case of, hey, if a team has this record, they're great. But you look at this and they lost to Hive Mind Kittens. Alternate F4 has 0 wins. UK and Ocelade is pretty low. Win over Crucible is something. Win over Nova is something. Agave Foxtails is relatively low tier, and Rockets has been a bit of a disappointment, even after they seem to get their starters back. So, 6-1, but as always, it's the quality of your matches. It's who did you beat? And hey, they, lost to Kittens. So their best win puts us in, okay, what are we going to do? Best win is over Crucible there. And Crucible's fine. Crucible's not looking like they're in some terrible space here, but Crucible is not looking as good as Heatwave, the two in this brand. Not necessarily because, they've done terrible, but they don't have that good win behind them, and they have taken some tough losses there. We can see Crucible beat Amplify and Chronos, but then they lost to Artemis, Tanuki, and CPay. So, okay, that helps place Artemis, but we're not looking at anything really great improving for Crucible here. Okay. Effortless wins over Amplify, wins over Eclipse White. Cool. That's going to be fine with us. Win over Foxtails. This Agave Foxtails. These Agave teams swing pretty wildly. Like, they're not going to swing up here, but they swing pretty wild between losing to people that they shouldn't and winning people they shouldn't. And honestly, once we get past about Boop Troop here, I think we're going to see a lot of swinging wildly in general from teams. I probably could have put the tier break here instead of here if I wanted to, but I do think some of these teams will dodge relegation, partially because I think there's just going to be too many forfeit wins available. I think it's going to be hard to get relegated with how many forfeit wins are available if you don't want to get relegated, sort of thing. And where were we? We were sort of we did Effortless there. We can talk briefly about Amplify. They beat Grass. They beat Boop Troop. Okay, those are going to be fine. As we get over to Reckless Nova here, we can see they beat Boop Troop. That's ultimately going to be what places them here. They beat Ocelate. We're fine with that. Wins over Alt F4 don't mean anything. And then, could they be higher than this? Well, they've got a loss to Voyager. Okay, but there's a lot of space between them and Voyager, so could there be more than that? As we're talking here, and we also see, oh, no, maybe, did I lose that? I did lose that. Sorry. I was talking about Reckless Nova. They've got losses to Artemis and Rockets. So that's fine. I don't know why I saw Voyager in my notes there, but we'll deal. We'll deal. Was I talking about Effortless, maybe? I think I was talking about Effortless. Effortless has losses to Tanuki and Voyager. That's who I was talking about. Thank you. I jumped a little bit. So, with losses to these two, there's some swing potential that they could be better than this, certainly, but they do have these losses up here, and their best supporting win for Effortless is going to be a win over Amplify right here. I've sort of talked about these four teams enough on my way through here. I don't necessarily think it makes sense to sort of go all the way through the rest of what's in here. I'll just talk briefly about this. This team has swung very high and very low. We can see this team sort of, I don't want to put this, as we get to this team, Kronos has been sort of consistent, done about what you expected. We had them as a mid-tier team last time. They continue to be a mid-tier team. I would say the more interesting team in that brand to me is Odysseus, whose player roster seems like it should swing higher and do better than what we've seen out of them. But they did lose to Kronos, so not a ton that you can do there. Then we move down to we'll just move on here because I know we had these previously. These, like I said, formed a little loop where they all played and lost to each other, and no one really has a good win that's taking them high in this tier, up out of this tier beyond the bottom. And then our cutoff, I would like to say, last time I had Compound Eyes as the worst team that was not just straight forfeiting out. Compound Eyes is not that team anymore. As we get to this, they have a win. Compound Eyes, good on you guys. They picked up a win specifically over Pretty Kitties. So this is the line of teams that have a win. These teams, Pretty Kitties, Nightmare Units, Alternate F4, and Hammy Hamsters, they're not forfeiting out, but they don't have any wins. Which makes this a little bit sad. Anyway, I sped that up a little bit because I think once we get past the top two, maybe beginning of the third tier, there's a little bit less interest in, let's map it all out exactly. But I did want to get into some of that. So people, hop in. I'm going to catch up on chat now, see how things are, see if we've got more updates. Like we got the good update from Baz there about, hey, he's going to be out for a bit, and their hearts have maybe fallen out of it a little bit. What's sixth place in terms of rewards? Six is $200. Hedwig informs us. Cool. Okay, that might pay for a couple of Faceit passes. Might pay for some registration costs. If Muck is playing top of tier list, if Muck isn't playing bottom of dodging relegation for Ohio, you guys, none of you graduated at Ohio, right? You guys still have the same core? Or am I crazy? Collegiate runs the world. Collegiate does run the world. I mean, you guys know not everyone here would like to hear this, but if we sort of compare this to Collegiate, the top 20 Collegiate teams are all at least playoff hopeful or above. You have to remember the top 5 Collegiate teams effectively are better than this season's Master Division. The top 5 Collegiate teams were all top 7. Yeah, that's about right. We're all about top 7 Master Division quality last semester. And then you have the sort of 6 to 20, 6 to 15, something like that, which we're all comfortable somewhere roughly in Masters in terms of their level or the very tippy top of Expert. That said, Expert has a little bit more competition. We're seeing better teams and more teams in Expert this season than last season. Justice for Ardberg. How you doing, Woods? How you doing? You here to pick fights and tell us all about how the only 3 teams that can win are Shroom Squad, Baz Team, and Divinity, and oh wait, 2 of those sure don't look like they're happening this time. But anyway, I'm giving you shit for what you posted there. Okay, so let me catch up. Aardvark is fine. I told you guys where Aardvark was. Aardvark is down in this grouping, and these 3 all traded with each other, and Aardvark is in this same area, so lower end of Respectable. And Respectable got tougher. Like, again, we can remember Respectable, teams like Aardvark, teams like Amplify, those were, like, middle to upper Respectable at the beginning of this, but as we've had more teams in here, and better teams in here, and more interest in this, we've seen the level went up as it's supposed to. Sadly, the level of Masters came down a bit just by the top getting removed, but what are you going to do? I just wake up to hate on your region. Okay, okay. To be fair, Aardvark almost beat Tanuki. I almost doesn't get it done. I mean, I remember Goose Gang almost got a win quite a bit up as well, but you have to go by the actual results because teams fool around and then get serious. Teams don't take it seriously and then go, oh, wait, no, we've got to get the starters in. Like, I'm very skeptical having coming from collegiate where every team always wants to tell you, no, 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 we're top 10 because we took a map off Northwood. And you go, oh, first time, huh? Where you just don't even realize that no, that's actually almost a bad side because it means they gave you zero respect, sort of thing. But hey. Anything else I want to catch up on here that was bad communication that what we have from Blob? Don't worry if your team starts failing temporal, just place them all with upgraded clones again. Maybe. I wasn't thrilled with yesterday's performance, but we just haven't gotten to train as much. I mean, I always run teams that perform based off of their practice, based off of their synergy, based off of learning how to actually perform as a team rather than a team that is, oh, hey, we've recruited so and so star players. And when we don't get our scrim time, we get cranky. No, I get cranky because we don't perform as well. But hey, so be it. Not ranked by coaches, ranked by results and expected results. We talked about Baz's team slash soccer has not disbanded, though they may be phoning it in a little bit. And I think that roughly does it. I don't think I need to spend as long on this power ranking because it's an update, and I don't see chat, going, oh, hey, chat, anything on here that you see that you go, wait, that's super wrong? Like, Carter, do you think Aardvark needs to be a lot higher? You guys can yell at me for not uploading new images, but that's not going to get you anywhere. Maybe I'll do it for next time. I would have liked to have two more images on here, Aardvark and then Moucha, but didn't make it. Rip Voyager, you lost today by day. And I don't think this is a bad team, by the way. Like, I don't think this is a bad team. I think they were the team that middle of expert division practiced like consistently, was looking for scrims consistently, didn't take a break, didn't do the big roster dance if everyone leave and try to find new teams and do this. They have recently added a player if memory serves, but I think these guys are reasonable. And you know that, obviously, they got the win over Voyager, and then they also, I believe, traded matches with these guys here, and hey, that's not bad. Pit poached another one. They do that, man. You're gonna get your players poached. That just means you have good players, but that just means you have a good eye for talent. Blitz, you've got that eye for talent, and sometimes that's how you move up in the Overwatch world. You just keep sending players up a league. I remember the first time I coached in open division, we didn't win, but I sent 4 players from 2 different regions up to contenders, and unsurprisingly, the call up for me did not lag very far behind that. That was, of course, years and years ago. But that's what you do. Northeastern never gets poached. We're no names. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. There's 2 issues with poaching from Northeastern. One is currently our roster, people don't know who our players are, and it was funny to get that sometimes where teams that, were just miles better than are like, we're not going to scrim you. We don't know any of your players. And you go, okay, buddy. But the real thing that you run into is the players at Northeastern know that they are spending a lot of money on college, and they, because of the sort of limited fields that Northeastern degrees for and how much Northeastern puts into the co-op program where the kids actually work at places while they're at school that can be potential future employers to them, our players have always sort of known that they have futures that are better than the Overwatch League. And it just didn't make sense to get poached. Like, we're going to poach you to go work on we're going to poach Sklee to go play for the Boston's contenders team, and, you'll get a tiny bit of money, like, okay, you'll get paid minimum wage to go do this, etc. Or Hirsch to go play for so-and-so, and it's like that, it didn't make sense. They had better futures than that, and they knew it. Voyager going into the cooking tank. We come back. Good. I want to see what you guys come up with. I would not at all be surprised to see you guys kick back up here at all. Okay. What else do we have? Um, the Aardvark could be higher. Yeah, I need more defense of that Hedwig. Isn't Benevolence the starter anyways? Poach another one. Okay, so you guys, if you guys lost two then? You guys have lost two players. Jesus. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. But again, that's good. If you're sending players up and then they do well while they're up, that's good for the Voyager brand, or that's good for the Blitz brand, or that's good for the people who have played with the people that got sent up because now there's a little, a little bit more knowledge of them a little bit higher up in the field. Think you watched the Tanuki match or something and it didn't look like Tanuki was screwing around? Okay, so let's read into what we've got in terms of maybe we've overrated Tanuki, or maybe we've overrated Tanuki, which I don't think we have. They do have the Midori win, but Midori itself is a little unsupported here, or maybe we've undersold Aardvark. So Aardvark's results are they beat Red Randy's. So they beat, I'll put them here. They beat Red Randy's. Then we're going to get into they beat Maucha, which is around here-ish. And then we're also going to get into they beat Foxtails, which is Foxtails my higher or lower one right now of the Agave teams. Foxtails is looks like the lower one. So they beat these guys. So, okay, they could be anywhere above this, except that we're going to get to the fact that they lost to Grass, which is then going to hold that back significantly. And then they lost to Tanuki and they lost to Midori. So that Grass loss is really going to hold them back. And you could say, well, is Grass just better than this? Well, Grass beat Aardvark, but then lost to Red Randy's and lost to Amplify. So no, they couldn't really be better than this, even if you get into it. Like Aardvark couldn't really be better than this unless it was just a really bad day when they lost to Grass there. Fair? That's low for Maucha. Buckethead, Zest, DPS line is solid. Okay, let's talk about Maucha. So Maucha, I've got right ahead of Ocelate because they beat Ocelate, they beat Agave Coven, they lost to Boop Troop, they lost to Aardvark, and they lost to Rockets. So no, it's very much not low. They beat these guys. They lost to Aardvark, who we've put somewhere in this range. They lost to Boop Troop, who we've got over here, and they lost to Rockets, who further reinforce that they're not better than this. So could they be somewhere between this line and, say, I don't know, this line? Sure, but that means they could be two, maybe three team spots higher. I think we've got them pretty well clocked. Grass has been forfeiting, I think, not to Red Randy's. That's fine. Grass may be forfeiting now. Is Grass pulled out? I'm okay if Grass is pulled out, but the point is, Grass's wins are still useful to me. If Grass caused a Grass's wins are still useful, even if they're forfeiting out. Like, if Grass is officially forfeiting out, I will move them down to my forfeit out tier. If they forfeited the last two matches, I'll move them there because I'll believe it. But the thing I run into is the times where they beat people are still useful for clocking where things go, right? Hey, Fire Carter, how you doing? Because that team existed. And that's relevant. Like if you lost to a team that's now forfeiting out, where that team used to be or belong before they started forfeiting still caps where you are. They played their last match against Amplify. Yeah, okay. So then they're still in it. They probably just couldn't make a match, so got forfeit forced. Never mind, you're wrong. Oh, okay. If they forfeited the last two, I'm willing to kill them. I'll move them down to my forfeit tier. It doesn't score line on the maps, but then if you go to the scoreboard, is it dead? Here, we'll check. We can check here rather than waiting for people. So this was Artemis, which is fine. And let's go over to Grass and see if they played their last two matches. And for Grass, we can see Details. Forfeited the last two? Okay, then I'll kill them. And yeah, I see AFK and it looks like 4. And the one before it, we can see AFK. No, maybe. Oh yeah, that looks like a forfeit. These are all 1-0s. Yeah, okay, fine. So they forfeited the last two, so that's fine. We'll go ahead and make our adjustment and we will pull grass down. But I don't think that changes anything because we still participated in this really 4-way tradey of matches, 3-way tradey of matches with Aardvark in there as well. So they were still useful for clocking. Okay. Let's take a look. Okay. Thank you, Carter. I appreciate you bringing that info to the table, and I unfortunately still expect the number of teams that decide to drop out and forfeit to climb. In the next 2 weeks, we'll probably have 2 more teams that have decided, maybe even 4 more teams that have decided, no, we're forfeiting out. Unfortunate, but, when the entry fee isn't huge, you see that sort of thing on long leagues like this. You lost to grass was kind of ugly. Remind me which team you're on, Fire Carter? Yeah, Icarus dropped out. Yeah, Icarus is down here, and that sucks because Icarus has already had impact. Icarus beat Daybreak earlier this season, so Daybreak has a loss that maybe they shouldn't. Because again, Daybreak could be cruising. Daybreak could belong up here for all we know. Aardvark. Got it. Okay, that's part of why we're getting the Justice for Aardvark things. So your loss to grass was kind of ugly. Were you guys running subs? Tell me about it, because, I'm potential. I know you guys had a good match against Tanuki there and had some close stuff, but tell me about what happened. Did they hit you with a comp you weren't ready for? Were you guys just having a terrible day? Was it on a patch day? Give us some stories. Right, Icarus was also useful because they were a benchmark against Old Expert. But, when teams aren't orgs, when teams, see these sort of things, when there are whole teams of free agents and people are attached to their rep, there's going to be things where one player gets poached up, every other player looks around to see, hey, will anyone take me because it's not the same team anymore? I don't think we're going to do any well as well. If a second one gets grabbed, this causes the others to have to redouble their efforts, and that's probably what happened on Icarus. I think we saw, someone got poached up to a team, someone else got poached up to a reasonably good team, and then everyone scattered to the winds to try to find teams. And once you've lost 3 people, you're not the same team anymore, even if one of them was a bench player. Once you've lost 2 starters, you're really not the same team anymore. But it was useful as a benchmark to see how new expert compared to old expert, and at the top end, and it's a shame to see them go. Yeah, I don't want to talk about yesterday, Hedwig. That wasn't our best day. Wasn't our best day. But that's okay. We knew we were coming off of very light practice, given we'd played the last 2.5 weeks with a double rotated lineup. Okay, so if anyone else has anything, okay, there's Fire Carter. Aardvark updates? So, no, like I said, with how we've done so far, I think we're in a good spot. Grass hit us kind of hard with players. With playing some wacky comps you hadn't played against before. Wacky comps. Ugh. Yeah, I know wacky comps. All I'm saying is I don't want to prove we're better with words, but with results. Well, that's always the way you want to do it. You always want to have something to support it. Then, you want supported stuff. You can come into the first power ranking of season with legacy of how you did in previous seasons, or with, hey, your players have so much clout, etc. But as the season goes on, you've always got to do it with wins. Hey, what do your results look like? And that's always why we don't take it too seriously when someone comes in and goes, oh, well, we had this player in a sub, or we had this, or so-and-so wasn't feeling well. Like, yes, of course, if you don't have your starters, it absolutely matters, but results are results. Did you play the match? Okay, then it kind of matters. But that's the right energy, Carter. Anyway, I think that's going to do it for now. I think we've covered what we needed to. If you guys want to yell at me on here or on Twitter or on whatever you want there, you guys know how to reach me. Have fun with it. But at this point, I think this is a pretty good one. I think we get I've pointed out the ones that are a little, hey, this is shaky. I think the entire respectable tier has some big swing to it at this point, but that's normal. It's just like in collegiate, once we get past about 18 to 22 teams start getting very shaky because they can't handle, they can handle they can handle a fastball just fine, they can handle a curveball just fine, but this batter completely falls apart to a screwball. Whereas a different batter can handle the screwball just fine, but can't handle the slider, sort of thing. Like most teams, once you get past a certain point, sort of completely collapse against something that, or not completely collapse, but play meaningfully worse against something that isn't all that unusual, is sort of the thing there. So you sort of see okay, this team isn't clean yet. And I suspect that tier is about here, could be a little bit higher, could even be up here, quite frankly, where most of these teams are going to have that. So I'm not too surprised that I'm seeing in here a lot of, hey, this is shaky, or a lot of maybe in here or something, this is shaky, doesn't handle the weirdest stuff all that well, plays really high when they get a match against this, but then it falls back down when they're playing against Titans or whatever the case may be there. Okay. I would argue dropping us down to maybe the next tier. I don't know if I want to drop us below Daybreak or Crucible, but we don't have a win better than them. I'm fine with that. I mean, it makes no difference to me whatsoever if we're here. I guess my argument of don't have a win below them would be, I don't really care. I'm perfectly happy for us to be here. I'm perfectly happy for us to be here. I'm perfectly happy for these guys to be up here. If I do that, I have to do that, and if I do that, I have to probably do more. I probably don't want to do this. So what I get into there is I'm perfectly happy to bring us down here, Hedwig. I do run a little bit into, I mean, we do have a win. It's not recent anymore, but we do have a win against ASU here. We've played against previous iterations of, Baz teams and won. Different roster, whatever. We've played against different iterations of St. Clair, which is half of what this roster is, and had them run from us, but doesn't matter to me. I'm perfectly happy to put it like that. I'm perfectly happy to put it up there. This season, I expect with how we're playing right now, this is probably more right. That's probably more right. But we'll see. We'll see. Daybreak. So the problem is Daybreak doesn't have anything besides this win, and I just don't know how much merit to put on this win right here. Because this team lost, rapidly twice. We've had them come in here and tell us, hey, maybe they're phoning it in a little bit here. And it looked a little bit suspicious to me, and they didn't have the same players in a couple positions that they did when they were winning. So I really don't know how much weight I want to put on these two wins. Like, these are a little unsubstantiated to me. And these guys, if we look at this, they get it a little bit better defended when, let me pull this back up. We get a little bit better defense specifically for Heatwave, because Heatwave did have the win on Sunday over Day by Day. But again, the next best win we have from Daybreak beyond Wonder Guard is all the way down here in Goose Gang. I don't want to be hating. But I'm a little sketch on how much is this worth, or is this team falling apart? I don't think this team is falling apart, that they're as bad as Goose Gang right now. This could be where they belong. 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 They probably don't belong much lower than that. But that's why I'm a little hesitant. Okay. That, fair. Daybreak does also have the loss to Icarus, which is hard to count too much against them because Icarus isn't in it anymore. I mean, that makes things a little bit tough. Icarus isn't in it anymore. I suppose I could take a quick look at Icarus. Did Icarus get us any other meaningful matches that I'm forgetting about before forfeiting out? Let's take a quick look here. And the answer to that is no. Icarus didn't have any meaningful. Icarus's only meaningful match before dropping out was beating Daybreak. So, not a ton I can do with that. Anyway, that's going to do it because I'm not seeing any more questions. Again, share, like, subscribe, yell at me that, oh my goodness, how could this person do these tier lists? They're so wrong, etc. If you're in Daybreak shoes, you're probably yelling about, hey, we're being discounted unfairly, etc. Our win over Wonder Guard 100% counts. It totally might. If you're someone else saying, oh no, Avidity, we just had a bad day against Shroom Squad. Great, show me, play it, win your next one. Fine with me. But that's going to do it for now. If you have questions, final last chance. Otherwise, we're going to go ahead and call it here. Thanks. Temporal out.